Hi guys, welcome to my first ever YouTube video. I'm super excited to do this. I run a social media page called Gaia Guidance, which is based around using nature and sort of natural spiritual ways of living, and I had this crazy idea that in the new year I would start a YouTube channel and I would share some of my information and practices and rituals and things like that with you guys. So here I am. The full moon coming is gonna be super exciting. It's a full moon, super moon and lunar eclipse all rolled into one, so the energy is going to be off the chart. So I thought, what better time to do a video around different things, different activities and practices that you could incorporate as part of celebrating. So I thought the first place to start really would just be to explain why a full moon, what's important about it, what's the big deal, why it has such an effect on people this time of the month, and why it's a really good time to do certain activities and things like that. So scientifically speaking, you know, the moon goes around the planet goes around the sun. So every 30 days, the moon and how much of it is visible to us changes. So the start of the cycle is at new moon, which is when the moon's completely blocked. You know, we can't see it. It's a dark moon, and then slowly throughout the month, more and more of it becomes visible. By the time it gets to the full moon, which is normally about 2 weeks, it's when we see the full circle of the moon. So that's when the energies are at its strongest. It's sort of reached its peak. And then after that it starts to disappear again, and we slowly see less and less of it until it comes back round to a new moon, which happens every 30 days. So I think the reason that the moon is so powerful and has such an impact on us is our bodies are 80% water. And we all know the moon has the power to control the tides, and so if it can impact huge bodies of water like that, then imagine the impact it has on, you know, dinky little humans. So I think that's where the energy comes from, and that's why, you know, if you're in line with the lunar cycles, it's a time that you really feel that energy. You feel it sort of grow and then you feel it ebb away again. So that's why I feel like it's super duper important to honour the full moon and try and work with it as part of your spiritual practice. So there's two types of energy really that are associated with the full moon, and it depends really on what kind of work you want to do and what sort of activities, that sort of thing, to which energy you tap into. So the first is going to be the waning energy. So that's the term used for when the moon goes from full to new moon. So as we can see less and less of the moon, it's waning, which means its energy is kind of diminishing. So you want to look at things where you want to diminish. So I'm talking about releasing things that don't serve us anymore, putting energy into decreasing negative attributes, so negative behaviours, toxic relationships, you know, negative thought patterns, things like that. So things that we don't want anymore, getting rid of them. It's also seen as a good time to do sort of banishing work and sort of expelling negative energies and things like that. The other side of it, the other sort of energy that's available is it's the full moon. It's at its most strong, its most powerful right now. So it's really good for like quick fix stuff. So really in the moment, give it everything today, right now, kind of rituals and magic and intention setting, which I'll get into in just a second. So the waning side of things then, this is where you're really focusing on getting rid of stuff, dispelling it and clearing your space. So that breaks down for me into kind of 3 categories. The first one's going to be actually banishing things. So you could do banishing spell work at this point. You know, you're going to be setting your intention into decreasing the amount that something affects you, be it a person or a place or an activity, a behaviour, something like that. I am going to do a separate video on banishing spells and banishing work, just because I think that's really important. But I would just say be super cautious with that kind of thing. You know, use the threefold law. You want to make sure that anything that you reject doesn't have, you know, a really negative impact on somebody else, and just make sure that it's, you know, balanced as far as the intention goes. The other thing you can look at is banishing sort of negative energy and things like that. So I'm talking about, you know, saging your house. It doesn't have to be sage. Sage is my preferred method of doing that, but you can sort of banish any negative energy from your house or workspace, or you know, if there's a particular room in your house that always feels a little bit iffy, you know, get your sage out, use your bells, use your sound bowl, use drums, use just music in general, you know, just liven up the energy, force all the negative juju out. It's a really good time of the month to be doing that sort of thing. So the next part of it is going to be around you know, your cleansing. So it's a really good time to just clear out any stale or negative energies. So if you practice any kind of craft, then this is a really good time to tidy up your altar, you know, cleanse your space, cleanse your tools, cleanse all your crystals, you know, cleanse your cards, your runes, anything that you use as part of your practice. Make sure it's all freshened up, and you know, get rid of any sort of negativity or any past sort of energies that's still lingering there, and that extends to just general life. You know, you can cleanse in any way that makes you feel good, so it's a really good time to declutter. Or, you know, if you've been really meaning to clean out your closet, or you need to, I don't know, there's a room that's been particularly bugging you and you need to just have a really good tidy up, cleansing your space. Full moon is the best time to do that. So the last part of the sort of waning side of things is going to be like letting go. So if there's anything that you're holding on to, now's a really good time to do a bit of spiritual practice around releasing what doesn't serve you. You can, again, do this in lots of different ways. You could do a bit of divination to try and get a message through to see, you know, what it is you need to let go of. You might already be aware of what you need to let go of, in which case you might want to do some sort of meditation around that to encourage, you know, a more positive mindset around it. You could also look at, you know, sort of some basic spell work. One thing that I like to do on a full moon is to write down anything that I'm, you know, particularly miffed by, something that's kind of bothering me, something that's giving me a bit of stress or anxiety, or something I know just isn't doing me any good anymore, and I'll write it down on a piece of paper and I will set that aflame and literally just burn it away. I'm done with it, kind of just get over it kind of thing. Full moon's a really, really good time to get things like that done. So another way of looking at the full moon energy is, as I said, the moon is at its peak, so it's at its absolute strongest. So by this, what I mean is it's a really good time to do one-off kind of things. So a few examples: if you're into baking, cook something, make something really nice and tasty on a full moon. You're gonna get all that extra like juicy energy in there, you know, made with love. It's a really good time to create anything, so that in that moment you're harnessing the energy. And the same goes for any kind of creativity. You know, if you do arts and crafts, like set some time aside to just practice that in the full moon. You know, if you're into anything else, if you write, or you songwrite, or you play an instrument, you know, do what you love during a full moon, because you're going to get that extra energy to do it. That night is going to be the time to get stuff like that done and be as productive as you can and sort of high energy on those activities. It's also really good for kind of charging things. So, you know, again, you've already cleansed all your tools, your crystals, your space. Charge it, especially with things like your crystals. You know, put them out on a. I put mine out on a sort of sari silk. I kind of feel like, you know, look after my crystals, they'll look after me. So, you know, lay them out, charge them in the full moon. You can also do that again with your tools, so your cards, any sort of scrying equipment, any sort of altar equipment, you know, charge that up in the full moon. Something quite fun that I like to do is make moon water. I keep mine in a little jar like this. You can get these jars pretty much anywhere. Fill it with some water. You can use natural water, so like spring water, river water. I probably wouldn't use salt water, that's probably not a good idea. So fresh water. If you're going to use it from a natural source, obviously I probably wouldn't recommend that you then drink it or use it in any sort of cooking or anything like that. But if you're going to give it to your plants, or you're going to use it in spell work, as long as you're not ingesting it, natural sources of water are great. If you're going to drink it or put it in your cooking, or you know, ingest it in any kind of way, I would probably suggest you use sort of filtered water instead. And it's as simple as you fill the jar, you leave it out all night in the full moon, and that is going to charge that water up with some super strong energies. So like I said, you can drink it, you can give it to your plants, you can cook with it, you can use it in your spell work, you can cleanse your crystals in it. Little tip there, just make sure that all the crystals that you're putting in water aren't soluble. There are some that you can't put in water, so just make sure you do your research beforehand. I will be doing a little video on crystal care later on down the line. I guess that's it really. I think I've covered everything. Banish, cleanse, charge, and just have fun. I normally spend it with my best friend, and we'll just sort of see how we're feeling on the night as to what sort of things we want to get up to. Just enjoy it. I mean, even if it's as simple as going out in your garden or going out for a walk and just bathing in the moonlight and just appreciating the moon, you know, and enjoying it, giving thanks, you know, because of the moon we have the tides, and just really sort of absorb all that, you know, super strong energy and just enjoy. So that brings me to the end of my first video. I hope it's been useful. I hope you've enjoyed it. There's been quite a few things in here where I want to do another video around that more specifically, like crystal care, and sort of rituals around sort of moon time, so actual sort of spell work in more detail, but they're going to come a bit later. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you're liking the vibe and you want to see what else I come up with, please hit the subscribe button. You can also check me out on social media. I am on Facebook and Instagram with Gaia Guidance, which I'm going to put up there. If you have any suggestions or anything that you'd really like me to do a video on, something that maybe's come up in this video and you're like, I don't really know what you're on about, or can you elaborate a bit more on, please drop it in the comments box and I'll be happy to do that sometime in the future. Thank you, bye!